Without the council, and without you. This isn't about you. I can't stay here any longer. Not now. I have to sort this out on my own. Without the council, and without you. This isn't about you. I can't stay here any longer. Not now. I have to sort this out on my own. Without the council, and without you. This isn't about you. I can't stay here any longer. Not now. I have to sort this out on my own. Without the council, and without you. This isn't about you.
Generations of Dyad in the Force.
Hello guys, welcome to another episode of DYAD in the Force, episode 85. We are coming to you live from San Diego Comic. No, we're not. We're not. We're just coming to you live from the comfort of our own homes yet again. Choco, what's up, man? How you doing?
I am a little disappointed in myself because I had the opportunity to go to Comic-Con and just things kept popping up and it just didn't work out. So yeah, I unused Friday ticket, but it is what it is. I'll be working it next year, so I'll be there next year. But you know, there's so many cool and awesome Star Wars creators and other, mutuals of ours that wanted me to come out, and I couldn't do it even to hang out with them. So a little disappointed, but we got some interesting Star Wars news that makes me excited. So that almost makes up for it. But yeah, next year.
It's, you know what, I'm blessed and thankful that I'm able to do what I do now, considering this past Wednesday we were able to go to Scum and Villainy and hang out with one of our guests as well as Char Char J. Shout out to Podwan's podcast. I got to try the green milk, the mind trick, and the Swindler's Delight for a chance to get a free shot for a trivia question. And the trivia question was, who was Count Dooku's apprentice?
Star Wars fans stay winning. We stay winning.
Absolutely. But speaking of which, let us introduce our guests for this episode of DYAD in the Force. We will start with Camila. Where can people find you and your great content? And what do you do?
And what do I do? Okay,
yeah,
great.
What do you do that is relevant to this main segment we're about to talk about?
Excellent. Hello, everyone. I'm Camila. You can find me a couple places. On TikTok, username is @BoricuaWookie, which is on the screen, which is now bigger and disconcerting, but it's fine. I have a Star Wars narrative podcast. It's called Beings of the Galaxy, and it tells the stories of the everyday people in the galaxy, the people in the background, and have the heroes of their own stories. So you can find that a couple places. We are on Twitter. Yes, here is where you can find us and learn a little bit more about us. Twitter, Beings_gang podcast. Just Beings_podcast. Underscore gang was an element.
It's half an underscore, right?
It's half an underscore, I guess. Yeah. And then Instagram, Beings of the Galaxy Pod, and then also wherever pods are cast. Get excited. We are actually in the midst of this is me taking a break from recording season 2, which is what my weekend is right now. So this is a nice little mid Beings of the Galaxy season 2 recording break. But yeah,
she said her season 2 was mid. That's what I heard.
Oh my god! Could you imagine? No. Fake news. Clickbait.
Not at all.
No, it's peak Star Wars. Peak Star Wars. Please check it out.
Gosh, that's so sweet. Yes, these guys have the are on episode season 1, so go check them out. And what do I do that's relevant to this conversation? Well, I'm a writer, and primarily work in features and TV. So that's my world. That's what I do. And yeah, does that answer all the questions?
I believe so.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Thank you.
Moving on to our second and final guest making their debut on DYAD in the Force. We have Cass. If you could also answer, where can people find you and your content and what you do for the industry?
Yeah, totally. So hi, everyone. My name is Cass, or Cassidy, if you want to use the full legal name. I don't post too much on TikTok, maybe once every 3 months, but if you feel like following once every 3 months, you can find me at Cass_online. My day job, so what I do in the industry, I'm currently working at a talent agency in a voiceover department, kind of working my way up to, you know, be a voiceover agent. So it's a good time. It's a good fun time.
Right on. Voiceover agent. So I mean, we have
Almost. We're getting there.
yeah. I mean, but we have Camilla here who does Beings of the Galaxy, and then me who's done Echoes of the Past and some voice work for Skyrim. So it's interesting. This is like a cocktail of, like, you know, a future Star Wars project.
Yeah, it's a bunch of talented people and Choco. It's awesome.
Oh no! What? Choco, you're incredibly talented.
Absolutely, you got that Southern accent.
All right. That's not the accent. I'm sorry.
Shout out to everyone in the chat. We have Kenny Darthman86 who asks, "What's up, everyone? How is everyone's day today?" And feel free to answer that question if you want to. How are you guys doing?
Great day. Nice.
Great.
75 and sunny out here in LA.
Oh man,
The best.
I just realized it too. We're all in the sunny state of California.
Yeah.
Our good friend of the channel, Cal Forer, who we see in the chat, yesterday was talking about like a storm that was bothering his internet, and I was like, oh, I forgot about those.
Right? Yeah, and there's
We could use some rain.
That's true. This is true.
But I wake up, my alarm is CNN, which is nice. Or maybe not, but it's fine. And they were talking about the heat wave. I think on either Friday or Saturday or Thursday, they were talking about the heat wave that's like sweeping the country. And I'm like, what heat wave? There's no heat wave. It's gorgeous. It's like 75, breezy. I can go outside in jeans and a long shirt and not be sweaty. I'm like, oh, there are other places that exist that aren't just sunny SoCal. I forgot.
Yeah.
And coming from someone that, I'm from, am I from Northern California? I don't even know anymore. I've moved around a lot, but spent a lot of time in Northern California. And I can tell you it was 111 up there yesterday.
Oh my God.
Ooh,
What?
Yeah.
Yikes.
that is quite the temperature. What was I gonna say? I've gotten used to now answering people who brings up the weather as small talk, and I'm just like, and they're just like, how's the weather out there? I'm just like, it hasn't rained.
It's gorgeous. Another day of sun. That's what it is.
There's nothing of note that happens in California weather until it rains. So it's the same thing. Shout out to Nedrex T. Just woke up. Awesome. And then we have St. Pat and Cal Force and Camilla Hart. Hello everyone, says Bruce Great Storm. Shout out to Young in the chat with the hand wave, and that's all. How we doing, friends? 3 cheers for new friends. Young also says Camilla and Cass being BAMFs. Yes. That is very much true. So let's move on to our first segment, which of course is announcements. I don't know if anybody here has any announcements they want to make, but for sure, use this time to talk about anything you're working on that you have coming up. The floor is your guys' because I don't have any announcements.
I mean, for me, it's just listen to Beings of the Galaxy Season 1. Please and thank you. To get ready for Season 2. That's my announcement. That's what I'm working on. Beings of the Galaxy
Where can you find it? On all podcasting?
Wherever pods are cast. Thanks for asking. There it is. Yeah, literally. Spotify and Apple Podcasts, I think, are the most prominently used, but it should be everywhere. If you just Google Beings of the Galaxy, it should come up somewhere eventually.
Yeah, just search it, I guess. Just Google it. Last week Fulcrum Transmissions was our only graphic, and that was just the gag, and we'll do it anyway. Check out Fulcrum Transmissions, a Star Wars podcast, episodes every Monday anywhere you stream podcast. Twitter and TikTok at Fulcrum Pod, Instagram at Fulcrum Podcast. Also, shout out to House of Holocrons every Friday at 5 p.m. Central on YouTube, Ducks and Download, and on Anchor and Spotify, House of Holocrons. And we also have Kessel Run Relay by Taika Waititi. Not really Taika Waititi, but Hayden. We all know her as Hayden. Spotify, Apple Music, and all other major podcatchers. Nice. TikTok and Instagram, Kessel Run Relay Pod. And on Twitter, Kessel Run Relay. Beginning of each week. Right on. I love having all these graphics just lined up so that I can shoot them out and do the promos. It's fantastic. I feel like a real radio DJ.
Now, this is something I have not actually talked to Pep about, but I was hoping that we can get moving with. I am very anxious to see now it left me.
Which one was it?
The George Lucas film, Strange Magic, that I haven't seen. I've never seen before. Didn't know it existed. In 2015, a movie from George Lucas called Strange Magic came out, and I never heard about it. So I would love to do a watch along to arrange that, and I would like to hope to do it on next Sunday on July 31st. I don't know if that is something that could be arranged.
What time? Because Sundays is usually the filming day.
Well, it will be happening soon, so this is a pre-announcement for that announcement. So don't mark your calendars, but get them out because it's coming.
You know, that reminds me of when they do the countdown website, and when the countdown reaches 0, they said announcement incoming next week.
That
there will be an announcement.
Like Overwatch when they announced Sombra, that was frustrating. Cal knows what I'm talking. There was like a website, and then you could like decode stuff, and like you had to like, oh my goodness, it was like National Treasure, and felt like you were hacking into stuff. It was really cool, like the build up, and then like it just kind of petered out at the end, and you're just like, oh. So like, sad. Yeah, we'll let you know soon, and you're like, well, that was lame.
Ven Skywalker says, take our New Jersey rain. My town's been flooding for 2 days. I legitimately can take my kayak to the grocery store. That's cool, though. Who doesn't want a kayak I mean, your groceries might get wet, but...
I don't know if I have the upper body strength for that.
Yeah.
And just picture Ven, like, going down in like, with his clone trooper helmet on, just like going down the river on his way to the grocery store.
I have a bunch of friends who like live where it snows, and they're like, oh, you know what? And people who they tell that they live in the snow up in the mountains, they're like, oh, that's cool. You could like snowboard to school and stuff. And you're like, how do you get home? you can't. Like, did you not think about that part? That part would be awful, I just, yeah.
I just imagine Ven now tipping over and capsizing, and then the only thing that's dropped from his groceries is like an ice cream sandwich that he was really looking forward to. And it just drifts away.
So sad.
Yeah.
We need to add like sad musical cues and stuff like that. Wah, wah.
Let's see what I can do about that.
Snow dogs.
You have done that yourself.
Oh my god. That's amazing.
Okay, let's move on to our next segments, which is our fandom checkup. I don't think anything... Okay, well, there is something that I'd like to bring to everyone's attention, and that is Black PNW lady, or Kiki. Her main account was banned for no reason. No new community guideline violations, just one day it was gone. So if you guys can turn your attention to her TikTok account, her alt, which is, I believe,
Black PNW lady. Wait,
no, I think that was the main.
That's the main one.
Black PNW Kiki, I think. I'll have to look it up, but chances are, if you're following one, you're following the other. And I'll do some duets and bring attention to it when I have the time after DYAD. But for sure, we are trying to get that account back.
So it is at Black Lady Kiki, Kiki.
There we go. So we'll try our best to bring notice to it. We'll boost any messaging that we need to get someone to notice that. Just stop doing this. Like, why? How does that even work?
I don't know. People are monsters sometimes. Like a friend of the channel, R2She2, after posting her ranking last year, just posted a ranking of Star Wars projects. Account banned, was mass reported because people didn't like her ranking. Stuff like that just it irritates me. But yes, definitely, reach out. I put a duet up about it. Cat Lady JJ has as well. Pep will do so in the future, and hopefully, we can help her get it back. I did have something else in the fan I wanted to talk about. So one thing that's been really cool that's come out of becoming a content creator is some of us have been able to get advanced reader copies of books, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's really cool to be able to keep up to date. But the reason that we receive them is so that we can hype up the book. If we love it, we can share that. If we don't like it, we can share that too. We put up reviews and whatnot. We don't get the books so that we can spoil things from the book on the internet before it comes out. So that part bothers me. If you are receiving them, it's a privilege that I'm thankful for. Don't ruin the books for the people who are looking forward to reading them, and don't ruin this advanced reader copy program for us, for all of us that are receiving them.
Did someone spoil it?
There's people who are starting controversial things, specifically with Padawan revealing some stuff and starting conversations without the context of the book being available. It's weird.
So basically, like an Inside the Magic article where there's just no context around what is happening, and they're like, "Oh, Star Wars confirms this," or I think in the last 2 weeks, Star Wars confirms that they're trying to decanonize Rey again. I don't know where these people get the gall.
Yeah. So yeah, like Young said, someone took Padawan and took a screenshot of a full page of it and posted it. So, and I don't know. I don't want them to stop sending out these books because it's a really cool thing, and it's pretty lame that happens. So that's my fandom checkup.
Yeah. It definitely is very concerning, considering all that stuff comes with embargoes. So hopefully that they're prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I think Camilla's back, right?
I'm back. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. My Wi-Fi's been chugging along all day and just hanging in there, and it's like I'm getting tired, and I'm like, I know, keep going.
I was confused. I was like, did I see her disappear? Did I have a stroke for a second? What?
I was like, hopefully my internet didn't crap out.
No, it's definitely my end. If it probably will happen again. If I just disappear, I'll be back eventually. Don't worry.
Jackson Download says, hit them in the wallet. That always makes a lasting impression. Some of these people don't have any wallets, so it's tough. I'd say hit them in the cajones, the cajones. All right, so our next fandom checkup is, of course, San Diego Comic-Con. It's going down right now. I don't know how much more news came out as of today, but we have some crazy announcements from San Diego Comic-Con in the form of, some of this stuff we knew from Celebration, but we have, High Republic, The Battle of Jeddah by George Mann. And then we get some previews. I don't know if I can Let's see if I can. Let's see if I can bring it up. Never mind. We'll do it live. We got some comic previews, some panel previews of this, as well as a cover for the High Republic Adventures, Padawan or Pirates, which sees Daniel Jose Older return with illustrator Tommy Bruno, and a cover by Harvey Tolobau, which sees a young Sav Maligan.
I'm so excited for this one.
I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can see it, but I am excited for this one too. First of all, our first canon Kyuzo Jedi, and then the younger version. First of all, when I first saw this, I thought that was Vernestra, but of course we went back in time. Cass, are you at all familiar with or reading like High Republic at all?
It's definitely on my bucket list. I want to work my way through them, but I gotta give it ample amount of time. It's on the bucket list.
For sure, though. I mean, the High Republic Adventures is I'm really excited for it. A young version of our first Kyuzo Jedi with their staff saber. It's gonna be pretty epic. And then we have the next one. We have a cover reveal for the High Republic issue number 2, which is 2021 or 2022. High Republic 2022 issue 2. Which all this is slated to come out by November. And everything is looking pretty shabby. We also got the a print for The Princess and the Scoundrel. And I think we can get that actually. Or is that just a... Nope, that's just a picture you can save. Okay, I thought we could get like that framed.
Order a print. I mean, you can still, take it somewhere. have it printed up on some canvas. But yeah, I'm excited because that wedding dress and the things surrounding it are pretty detailed in the book, and just seeing the visualization of it and how it matches is really cool. And again, I'm super excited for Sav Maligan. Like Jedi or pirate. We know in Maz Kanata's early days, she was a pirate queen. We even get that in the audiobook for Afra. And so, and we know that she's close friends with Sav Maligan. So to see this like young Jedi whippersnapper, like rolling around, hanging out with Maz Kanata on Takodana, I'm just really excited. She has just like, she has major girl boss energy, she's standing there like, oh, hello strangers of dubious intent, and then proceeds to wreck them, and it was beautiful. I'm hoping to see more of that.
So we know now that Kyuzo are long-lived at the very least, canonically, because 150 years in the past, that's young. So that means Embo still around and kicking during the Battle of Exegol. I do believe there was a short story where he is in fact involved in the Battle of Exegol, along with Kix, along with all of the Crimson Corsair. Which is fantastic to hear. I might write a short story about Embo after the fact, or maybe even include him in Echoes of the Past. We'll see. Shout out to Marianne in the chat who says, I'm excited about the Battle of Jeddah. Yeah, you know what? Seeing Jeddah before it came what it became in Rogue One would be always an interesting thing to see.
Yeah, and again, Battle for Jeddah is an audio drama, and Star Wars has been killing it with the audio dramas, having a full cast. I mean, my preference is still, having a single reader like Mark Thompson, but sometimes his lady voices get a little, sometimes they suffer.
Yeah. My name is Ian.
And because of that, it makes it really nice when we do have these audio dramas that have, and these High Republic ones have been having their own unique music, and yeah, they've been doing a really good job with them. So I'm excited to jump into that. Plus, I think George Mann has been underrated in the Star Wars space. He's written some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. We also got other news that the often rumored Amandla Stenberg, they were cast in Acolyte. So that is confirmed, and we now get to freely speculate on their role and whether or not they are the Acolyte or not.
They have main character energy to me.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? All right, then, are you excited for the Acolyte?
So excited. Yeah, I love Russian Doll, and which Leslie Headland co-created, and that just makes me even more excited to see like that tone and what she brings into storytelling and put it into Star Wars. And I know that she's also like such a massive Star Wars fan as well. And her interview with I think it was one of the Vanity Fair interviews when like everybody and their mother that's involved with Star Wars right now was interviewed for that entire spread. And she was talking about like the connections to the High Republic, and because we all speculated, we were like, is it going to connect at all with the like publishing High Republic side, or is it mostly just like it takes place at the end of it? But it kind of seemed like there's a chance that we might see some connections from the High Republic books and the comics into the show, which is like super exciting to see that world starting to come to life on the screen.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Cass?
I think Amandla is such a talented actor, so I'm just excited to see what fun they can have in whatever they're doing exactly in the Acolyte. So I think it's going to be whatever it's going to be. It's going to be weird and fun and a whole lot of magic, and just, it's going to be a good time. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Connor, shout out to Connor, good friend of the channel. Guys, the new She-Hulk trailer is amazing. Dang.
It's the Marvel panel right now, isn't it?
Yeah, Marvel panel's happening right now. DC happened a little bit earlier this morning, where we got another Black Adam, another Shazam trailer.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming on. It's the end. On to the next.
For anybody watching who's also keeping track of Marvel news, personal request, if Elizabeth Olsen comes out and announces a solo Scarlet Witch movie, if somebody can put it in the chat. I'm sorry, I don't want to derail this conversation, but also need to know.
Oh no, I feel that. If Dr. Doom gets announced in any capacity, I might take off like a rocket and just go straight out of frame. So I definitely feel that.
Listen, the show is on rails as far as our destinations and stops, but like in between the stops there will be like 20 different tracks that it could go. It all depends on how our guests are feeling. If you want to talk about something else, we can as well. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, if there's anything the mutants related, that's going to knock my socks off, make me gloss over some ashes.
Wait, going back to Star Wars news really quick, we need to talk about hyperspace stories and the fact that we have Padme and Wookiees.
Yeah.
Like,
this is
cry myself to sleep tonight.
Also of note that these are coming out under Dark Horse Comics.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody with Dark Horse Comics is watching, I did work rather closely with IDW for their adventures. If you need someone to cover the adventures or hyperspace stories or any of the other comics you guys will be in charge of, I'm happy to do that, as well as Choco is. And I think everybody here would be happy to cover the Dark Horse Comics. Let's see here. Blade. Anything with Blade, Darth Man says. Guys, my heart is going 100 miles per hour for Black Adam, I think. And then Doxin Download says Star Wars greater than Marvel. I think it's Star Wars and then Marvel, and they're both in different tubes.
Agreed.
You know
Running
what I mean?
parallel.
Exactly. Let's see here. Is
Yeah,
Hyperspace
don't
Stories
make
the
me
first
choose.
Dark Horse release? No, I think High Republic Adventures is, right?
No, I mean the adventure stuff was still under IDW. I don't know that they got a Dark Horse release. This might actually be the first one back for Dark Horse since Son of Dathomir.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Shout out to Chris in the chat, Star Wars lawyer. Hello, what have we here? Thank you for tuning in, Chris. Am I gonna have to do reviews for She-Hulk because I'm a lawyer?
Absolutely.
Yes?
I need to see that.
Absolutely.
I'm already gonna book both you and Beth for something after the show ends. I want to know, how accurate they are to the law industry.
Yeah, listen, Chris, I've always wanted you and Beth to do a legal podcast about like law in nerd franchises in Star Wars and of course in Marvel. And that would definitely be an episode, a series for sure. Like things that they got right about law. And the reason I frame it that way is because we're in this weird black hole of people looking for things they got wrong. So I would like to change the conversation around media there. Is it any of you guys seen Resident Evil on Netflix?
It's on my list. I need to.
On the list.
Do it. So okay,
I have not.
I know that
it's not on my list though.
put it on your list. Put it on your list. Listen, I know the
All right,
bar
I'll
is.
put it on my list.
I know the bar is very low, but it is the best Resident Evil they've done in live action. The way that it takes place, when it does take place, and it kind of like brings together, the entirety of the entirety of Resident Evil canon, is pretty impressive. And I've thought for the longest time that they should steer away from stories that we know from the games, because every time they try to do those movies around the games, they get it wrong horribly, and they put in stuff from the games that don't need to be there, and they get lost in that stuff. So
Listen, we need to stop trying to put games on the big screen. It's so hard to do it right, because you have 2 hours to tell a story that people personally experience for like 50 hours, and it's not gonna feel the same. I mean, is there any that you think they've gotten right
for video games?
Mm-hmm.
Sonic.
Yes. Yes.
That's the extent of my answer. I mean, there are some games out there. There are some game movies out there that like are guilty pleasures, but none that have like been
like Mario Brothers
successful.
and Street Fighter?
Yeah.
The first Mortal Kombat?
I definitely think that this Resident Evil series is a successful adaptation. Just like Sonic. But wow, see? We visited a track that wasn't that surely wasn't gonna be there, but it was there. Let's move on to DYAD Book Club. Are any of you guys, have any of you read Catalyst or are reading it along with the book club?
I have read it already.
Okay.
I have not read it, but I'm excited to hear you guys talk about it.
Okay. We won't spend too much time on this. It is our weekly check-in for the DYAD Book Club, chapters 15 to 21, which sees Galen increase or accelerate his the Project Celestial Power. And this is, on the back end, it is a project that is aimed to delivering renewable energy to developing worlds. But of course, on the did I say back end? On the front end, it is renewable energy to developing worlds. On the back end, it is the Special Weapons Program foundation for Project Stardust, which is the Death Star. Go ahead, Choco. You have something to say.
Yeah. So I love this book because it really builds out Krennic super well, and he is a monster, but like in the most interesting ways. One of my favorite things to kind of come out of this chapter is we get to see the larger scope, right? Because this is a big, the Death Star is a huge project, and it's going to take a lot of materials. How do you get those materials? Well, there's a bunch of protected worlds that you are not allowed to have industry on under the Republic, and they are supposed to be protected forever. Certain companies can get permits to go there for a short period of time and take out small amounts of stuff. And, but you'll get hired, you'll be a smuggler, get reached out to for a secret job, and you were just delivering cargo to one of these planets. You drop off the cargo and leave. Then the Empire comes. Turns out your cargo was a bunch of arms, and that breaches their contract, which then allows them, the Empire, to come and take over the world and mine the crap out of it. And the way that whole thing took place reminds me of certain things that have happened in our real world. And it's just dirty, and like you feel bad. And even the people involved, you're like, just puts a bad taste in my mouth. But it's it gives a larger scope to the underlying evil of the Empire, because at this point in time it's still masquerading like it's good, like this is progress, like they're only doing this to create tools to help people. But you can see that, and Krennic is ordering this himself. We also see he's kind of a brilliant dude in his own right.
Very, very cunning. Not the brightest in conventional senses, but cunning to say the least, to be subject to his inner monologue and his workings of how he's going to manipulate Galen into being what he needs him to be, how he's going to engineer Galen, who is slowly but surely accepting the propaganda of the Empire. And when he engineers Lyra to separate from Galen, to go on a survey in which she learns about these legacy worlds being taken over. She comes back and she's like, I have trepidations about the Empire. And Galen's like, no, they're good. Well, like it's starting to, like, you come home to somebody who's suddenly a Trump supporter, and then you're just like, wait, hold on a second, what happened? Not to get political. I won't get political. That's as political as I'll get. But yeah, you see this all the time. It started with the Bancora refugee or refuge. They're just starting to not care about any of the pre-established things from the Republic era, and yeah. And you can also see how he's slowly manipulating and working on Galen to get Galen completely over to his side, even going so far as to offer Lyra, his wife, an awesome opportunity to go explore here, but hiring the same pilot that he used originally for looking around in those different worlds, and doing so specifically to just get her out of the way so he can work on Galen. And there was a line in there that I really enjoyed, where Galen is just kind of his inner monologue, where he's talking about how he doesn't ever lie. He's trying to simplify his thinking because it's so complex anyways. And he says lying introduces complications, so he says whatever he feels
And people will get mad, but you can't accuse him of lying. But he acquiesced. He subscribed to a falsehood that threatened the relationship with the family that he was trying to support and protect, and henceforth would be corrupted. That's him. He compromised his morals for the Empire and recognized that as his own corruption. And I thought that was so cool, because so rarely do people recognize that. Like, he is fully aware that he has compromised himself, and he is doing so to protect his family, but he knows that it's a compromise, and he knows it's the wrong thing, and is caught in this place. Versus, we get our Anakins and things who compromise, but they're lying to themselves, like, no, this is the path, this is the right thing to do, this is the right thing, and they keep telling themselves that in order to make it true. And I really enjoyed just Galen as a character. He's an awesome dude.
Yeah. Camilla, do you have any thoughts on this part of the book?
Yeah, I I went back and I was looking through my copy, because it's chapters 15 through 21 are the ones that you all have read. So it's like, I don't want to accidentally spoil something. So yeah, I remember as I was flipping through, you're starting to see how Lyra and Galen are starting to divide, and seeing the divide between the two of them and their perspectives. And I really love what this book does for Lyra as a character and fleshing out. I mean, it's no secret, it's part of the reason why we're here today, that Star Wars doesn't have the best track record with female characters. They are obviously getting better at it, clearly, in the past few years. And I would say Lyra is one where it's we had her in Rogue One, and she's you can tell she's an interesting character, and she's this powerful mother. Also, Star Wars has a mother problem as well, but that's another conversation. And so we don't get a lot about her, because the movie is really just Jyn and her relationship with her father and Galen, and how that pushes the movie forward. So what I love about the book is that it flushes out Lyra, and we get more of Lyra, and also getting to see people who aren't Force sensitive being attuned to the Force in a way that she can't lift rocks, but she is you can tell that she's very aware of the Force and very dedicated to the Force and the Order, and sees the Jedi Order in a different way. And you start seeing kind of the propaganda of the Empire with the Jedi, and how Lyra's perspective differs from Galen, from Krennic. And so getting to see different perspectives of characters, especially when it's a woman who's relegated to being a very one-dimensional character in the background, who then dies in the first 10 minutes of the movie. It's nice to see her fleshed out. And she's got some really these chapters have some really interesting, as I was flipping through, I had a lot of stars that I had forgotten in notes in terms of her. There's a really great conversation, I think, in 15 between her, Galen, and Krennic, talking about the Jedi Order and the Force.
Yeah. It was interesting to see kind of the propaganda kind of squeezing itself in there through Galen, who's just the Jedi weren't sharing their secrets, and so they were afraid of that they'd grow powerful. Just all of this stuff that just is not true, but of course comes from propaganda. And some of the things what were one of the things that Galen was saying also?
I mean, he was saying oh well, he started out fully on Lyra's side, and after that kind of divide, he started saying things oh well, it's really the Jedi's fault we're in this situation, because they had the opportunity to give us this research into the kyber crystals, or they were holding back this knowledge and keeping it from the rest of the galaxy, and that's who needs it, and just little things like that. But one of my favorite things to come out of this is just the fact that Krennic is legit scared of Lyra. Lyra could physically whoop his ass at any point in time, but he knows that that is his obstacle.
Yeah, for sure.
And she knows it too.
Speaking of what you were talking about, Camilla, I like how even though you're not Force sensitive, there are still ways for you to feel the Force. And the way that Lyra talks to Hass about, hasn't there been a place like lush with life that you have felt the Force in mysterious ways? He's like, no. It's like, well, next time you're there, just like breathe like slowly. And I kind of I kind of like relate that to if like you are somewhere in the wilderness and you see like a waterfall and it's framed in a certain way and you just kind of have goosebumps. You're not Force sensitive. You're not going to be a Jedi, but you can feel the majesty of that moment. And that's why I believe in the Force, IRL. Just saying. So before we move on to our next segment, which is the main segment of the show, catching up with the chat. A lot of people are talking about the D&D movie. I am in a very precarious situation of working on a team that is responsible for Lord of the Rings and D&D. I will just say this, that a lot of people on the team are excited for what they see in Rings of Power and D&D. So, I mean, that is the extent of that. I thought what I've seen from the D&D trailer was enjoyable. I think we see sort of a portrayal of Dimension Door, which is exciting to say the least. I think that's in the trailer for a reason. Let's see here. Young says, managed to listen to it. Love Lyra. Right on. I mean, I think that's the point of this book at the end of the day. So happy I didn't miss this. I've been trying my best not to read ahead. You can always read ahead. Just keep notes on the chapters that are within these parts. That's what I'm doing. And that's what
I do read ahead because sometimes I can't help it. And then I have to. So then before this, I read that chapter and remember, okay, everything, this is my stuff. This is my stuff.
That's a sign of a good book.
It is, yeah.
And just real quick, I am excited for the D&D movie. I'm new to it as well. I do wish we had more variation when it comes to species. Chris Pine as a bard is I think somewhat inspired. Owlbear just looks cool. And then just real quick, I am sorry there's no specific announcement for Scarlet Witch. Agatha did have its winter announcement, and it looks like there's some cool stuff coming on Marvel, right? Quantumania, Secret Invasion, Echo, Guardians of the Galaxy, The Marvels, Loki Season 2, Blade, Ironheart, Agatha, Daredevil, Born Again.
Ooh.
Whoa.
And then Captain America, New World Order.
Interesting.
Wow. I'm surprised we didn't get any Wakanda Forever stuff. Isn't that coming out this fall? Or did I make that up?
It's coming out in November, I believe.
Yeah, it's coming out this year. So what I just read to you was what's coming out in Phase 5.
Oh, okay.
We still have some more stuff coming out here in Phase 4.
Yeah. So are you watching the panel as it's happening?
No, I had Connor send me a graphic of the timeline chart.
We'll see. Hey, I mean, you never know. There could be a trailer that just drops that's outside of the slate graphic.
Absolutely. Plus, the last time they gave us one of these big old slates, there was a lot of things that changed, moved, or whatnot, but it's still good to get excited about. It looks like we are going to be getting a lot more, representation for our ladies as well, especially with Echo and the Marvels and Ironheart, which I'm super excited about. But speaking of our ladies, we can move into the next segment, right?
I love that segue, but it was mistimed because I wanted to comment on Ironheart because I have no clue about Ironheart and I'm excited for it. In the same way that I had no idea about Kamala Khan and Miss Marvel and how that ended up being one of the top shows from
absolutely
MCU.
Incredible show.
Wonderful show.
So
And
good.
I mean I'm starting to like get really, really pumped for all these characters that I have no knowledge about, because then it just kind of enhances my enjoyment of it. That's all I wanted to say. If you want to segue, you can.
Riri Williams is an awesome character. It's taken a bit longer for the fandom to embrace her, but seeing her step out on her own and out of the shadow of Iron Man specifically, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really excited for all of these projects.
Jackson Download says Galen is like a lot of genius people I know. Almost zero social skills makes them easy to influence. That is correct. CJ is in the chat.
We love a neurodivergent king.
CJ in the chat. X-Men's 97 looking great. Did they show some of it? Because I know it is supposed to be like a continuation.
They showed the look of the characters.
Oh, I need to see that. Okay.
Yeah, they did the same thing with Spider-Man freshman year and gave a little more nuance as to what that's going to look like.
Okay.
Yes. Which has changed from being directly canon to being canon adjacent. I'm just happy that, our Osborns have a little bit more melanin in their skin tone, thus making their waves, their wavy hair make sense.
Oh,
because
wow,
he was always
that's
a
true.
ginger dude with like deep waves. And you're like, I don't even know what's going on there, but like, it's got Blake Griffin vibes. I don't know.
I've never thought about that. That's awesome.
I didn't even know about waves until I saw Spider-Man. I was like, what's that? My mom's like, oh, those are waves. I don't know why he has them, but
Okay, so according to Chris, apparently the Wakanda Forever panel hasn't happened yet, and so we're not going to get anything out of anywhere else but that panel. So if we were hoping for some Wakanda Forever news, it'll probably be there.
Well, Lupita Nyong'o recently joined TikTok. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Posting quite a bit, so that's a good little sign. We're gonna get stuff there.
Is she still an anti-vaxxer?
No, that wasn't Lupita. That was
Oh,
my
was
heart
it
dropped.
Letitia Wright? Was
Yeah.
that? Yeah. Okay, I was
Yes.
misspeaking. Sorry, Lupita. If you're watching,
Lupita's TikToks have been. I was like, God, she's gorgeous. Like, I don't even. What did she say? I don't know. I feel bad.
wow, tongue twisted.
and I try not to do that, but like, I don't know. She's a queen. Can't help it.
She is. Okay, so yes, our main segment of the show: women behind Star Wars. This topic was specifically requested by our very own Camila Barikwa Wookie. And it's an important topic to talk about because if you do any amount of research on Star Wars, you will learn that more than 60 to 70% of Star Wars, the genesis of it, is thanks to women. It's an interesting statistic to know because, oftentimes when we think of Star Wars, we think George Lucas. That's it. People who are diehard Star Wars fans, that's all they know of Star Wars is George Lucas. George Lucas explains this. George Lucas explains that. George Lucas is the end-all, be-all of anything Star Wars related when it comes to this stuff. And now there's a lot more people involved in making Star Wars what it is. We're going to talk about that. And so we can start with Cassidy.
Yeah, let's dive in. I think one thing I told myself I really wanted to talk about when thinking about this podcast was just purely the misconception of what Kathleen Kennedy's role is as the head of Lucasfilms, because there's this idea that she is like the end-all be-all creative driving force of every little decision, which I think takes out the nuance of just how big of a company Lucasfilm has become since obviously its inception, and how it's so much more of a micro situation of a million moving parts and a million different people working to create the whole than just this hierarchical person at the top who many have decided on the internet to bash without fully understanding that what she does is essentially, like, at the highest level, she's an accountant. I mean, that's truly what it is. It's so much about the moving of the money, the moving of the various roles, making sure everyone has a place, what the calendar looks like, how that plays into the larger distribution. It's just, she's not the one deciding Rey is a Palpatine. You know what I mean? The things that people just grapple to and say, I didn't like this equals she's bad. So I guess that's, if we want to start there, start at the top and work our way down.
Yeah.
And I just like hate the inverse of that, because it's this was bad, so therefore it's because of woman. Oh my gosh, this was good, it's because of man. And it's like, I feel like we've gotten better about that, or not we, but like folks have gotten better about that, because like there are more women actually being in charge in the in terms of like the actual creation. You know, I know like there's that meme that would go around anytime there was like a Clone Wars episode or a Mando episode or something that people loved, and it was the guy with his hands like toward the sun, and it was always a picture of Dave Filoni. And it was like, people would do that with like the Bad Batch, but like that just counts like the fact that the head writer of the show is Jennifer Corbett and is a woman, you know. And it's not saying that like Dave Filoni is not involved at all, but it's like now recently I saw people inserting like Deborah Chow's face with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that makes me happy, because it's like some of these women are getting the dues. But in terms of like, in terms of like the structure of like Lucasfilm itself, it's not that hard. People just don't want to do the work. It's not that hard to find out who the decision makers are, considering on the Lucasfilm website, there's a literal leadership page that has the names of all of the leaders and all of the vice presidents, all of the senior vice presidents, all of the like executives and stuff like that. And it tells you like their bios. And you can go in and be like, oh, these are the people who are in charge of film. These are the people who are in charge of like animation, TV development, live action projects, all of like that kinds of stuff. And then you can, and the thing is, if you go on that page, a lot of those people are women. Like there are so many women in the leadership board at Lucasfilm. And it's like, yes, Kathleen Kennedy is the head, but like there are so many other people involved on that side. And it can be like very confusing and very difficult to dig into and like understand what these roles are. But again, the internet is free. It's not that hard to Google what does a vice president of a studio or a production company do, and then like educate yourself so that we can have better conversations about the genesis of these stories and where they're coming from, and the decision makers and who's making decisions, where they've come from, what their backgrounds are, and all of that.
Yeah,
it's the reason why whenever I hear people saying, I wish Jon Favreau would be in charge, I really want to say, no, you don't. You don't want him to be in charge, because he does not want to be spending his whole day dealing with a budget. Like that's just not where his creative energy deserves to be going, and that's okay. It's just silly to me.
He said it. He said it best in one of the galleries. He was like, I couldn't do what I do with The Mandalorian and these shows without Kathy, because she's the one connecting me with all of the vendors I need to get all of the things done for this show. And so he is taking care of the creative and trying to get things in place to you know, bring to life his vision. And Kathy's the one that with all of the vendors and connections and, you know, just making everything happen. And to your point with like, if it's bad, it's Kathleen Kennedy, and if it's good, it's so rooted in misogyny. It's not even funny. It's like Kathleen Kennedy is EP credited or billed as EP on this project and the next project, yet Star Wars
they
was saved.
They didn't let her in the writer's room, though.
The guys were like, no, we're in charge. You're not going to do what you did with the sequels. And so Favreau and Filoni saved Star Wars. And it's just, even when you see pictures of her and George Lucas together, just like talking it out and being cordial, you'll see the YouTube videos. So, George Lucas fighting with Kathleen Kennedy on set. I don't know where they get this info, but it's hard.
I think my favorite one though was them taking a clip of hers and going crazy on it. And it turned out it was an interview of her talking about the movie The Color Purple. but they took the one clip.
Oh, jeez.
And you're like, she literally is the most successful EP of all time. Like, you look at her film history, it's crazy.
It's stacked prior to Star Wars. It's so, and it's frustrating because it's like genuinely inspiring to people who work in this industry, and you find yourselves just like, if I type in her name into YouTube, I see some of the most vile stuff I have ever seen. And what's so frustrating about that is, I mean, we could talk about clickbait for hours, but it's the idea that people are making money off of hate, particularly hating women, and it's working. They are genuinely making money off of hate. So it's validating these discussions that they're having within their chats. Like, our chat is beautiful right now. It's a wonderful place. But the idea of those chats with those people, it's just, and it's so frustrating as like a woman wanting to like wade in there and give a counter argument, and instead you get doxxed, you get called the foulest of names. It's just, like, how do you win, you know?
Yeah. It's deflating. It's deflating. And also, like, you get being like Cass, being in the industry and like wanting to be in these spaces, and then seeing like how like women in these spaces are treated, and knowing that like these are the spaces that you want to be in. And then it can be so deflating to be like, well, this is what I love. This is like the places that I want to be in, you know? And not even just like Star Wars aside, just like fandom spaces in general are just dumpster fires the majority of the time for women and for people of color. And whenever like a woman or a person of color exists, well, they're like, surely like these people can't exist in this like fantastical world that's like not actually here, you know? So, and people get hung up on that because it's taking them away from being, I don't know, we all know why they get hung up on
I'd be interested to be let inside the mind for like 2 seconds when someone like sees a POC just out in the world, and they just randomly think to themselves, why is the world shoving this down my throat? Yeah. Why are they forcing this diversity into the streets? It's weird that someone's existence could you know, ruffle your feathers so much.
I heard it said once that if you don't understand how powerful it means to be included if you are always included. The inverse, you understand the pain of exclusion when you've always been excluded. And for so long, the gatekeepers have been people who have always been included, and only keep like the people who look like them, who think like them, who act like them into these universes. And like that's especially true with, again, like popular culture, and not just Star Wars, but comics, Marvel, superheroes, fantasy, all of that kind of stuff. It's always been run by a specific kind of person, white men. And so therefore that's what stories have been told, because there's never been like a push to get out of that comfort zone. And so now looking at Star Wars, there are like more women behind the scenes. There are more people behind the scenes who are like, when I was a kid, I loved Star Wars, but I was never in Star Wars. And now we get the chance to put people who look like us. I get the chance to make a Star Wars story that a little kid who looked like me gets to see themselves in. Like, that isn't political at all. That's just including other people in the conversation and helping us realize that like there are other voices out there. There are other stories to be told, and it makes your life richer to experience somebody else's story and to look through their eyes and to look through their lens.
Yeah, and that's why I enjoyed Miss Marvel so much. Because it wasn't even like, they didn't even like, it wasn't, you know, a big part of the show. It was just narratively, that was her life and her culture. And we were in that world. And you know, it's just sad to see some people just not being able to accept anything other than their own bubble. You know, and it kind of goes into like how they're just, whenever Mark Hamill says something that is confirmation bias. They're like, yeah, telling the truth. But when Mark Hamill says something that is against their confirmation bias, oh, he was
They
being
made him
paid.
say it.
Right?
They made him say it.
When George Lucas is the mastermind of Star Wars, when he selects Kathleen Kennedy, oh, he had to do that. He didn't really believe in his decision or his choice. Like, the mental gymnastics you have to go through to kind of justify that George did not select the best person he thought in his mind. Like,
And the crazy part is that Star Wars is the most successful it's ever been, like the most profitable, and like, you know, 4 billion would be a steal, you know, like at this point in time.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a little wild to me.
Checking back in with the chat really quickly. Young Jones says, I saw a TikTok comment that was trying to bash Deborah Chow for the casting of young Luke in an interview where he said he hadn't seen the original Star Wars before. I was very confused. The young Luke? Does it really matter?
He's 10.
So the extent of his implementation was looking up at Ewan and doing this and the quad knocks.
Literally.
There's gonna be like an extra. That person's never seen Star Wars before. I found him. And you're like, that's an extra. It was just a dude drinking tea. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know anymore.
And again, it just circles back to a lack of media literacy, a lack of understanding the business of how these things are made. The process of the casting process, how many people are in the room, how many rounds these actors have to go through and jump through hoops. Like it, and the blame that gets shifted, we can bring up Moses Ingram here, I think, because I think that's a valuable conversation to have. The just vitriol that she experienced as a woman, as a person of color, that intersectionality, it's disgusting. And I mean, I'm glad that the Star Wars Twitter account posted about, you know, racism equal bad, but I still feel that there is so much more that can be done to stop these things from happening, because fans, again, they're being fed into that this is okay, because you circle back to, you know, the toxic YouTube communities that I really feel like fed into this a lot, Reddit that's fed into this a lot, that's created what we now have as a no one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans culture.
Yeah.
It's just how do you peel back all of these layers of toxic masculinity, toxic white masculinity that we are at right now with a warring fandom? Because like we can sit here, all of us, all day long, and I think for the most part we all agree on a lot of things, but we're not the people that need to.
Well, that's true. Is that,
Yeah,
what is it called?
I don't know.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah. It's so easy to get on a soapbox, but then it's like, once I'm off,
It's
now
true.
what?
You know what though? I have absolutely seen certain people in the fandom, in our communities, in our chats, that fully admit that, you know, I was one of those toxic people at one point in time, and explaining like what Kathleen Kennedy does, or like showing the actual source material. When she says Mandalorian was lucky to get a season 2, it was because COVID happened and they would have had to shut down if they hadn't finished like 5 days earlier. And another thing, especially when it comes to Moses Ingram, because the campaign against Moses Ingram started before the show came out. And I was talking to some people, I had someone in one of, commenting, like, the reason I didn't like her is because I didn't have her story yet. And this was like on episode 2. And like, this is her story. You can't be mad that you haven't seen this already while you're watching it. That's crazy. But I think a big thing that it comes down to is that for people who have a lot of representation, any character could be anything. Like any white male in a film, there's no predetermined trope. Yes, they can fall into tropes in the future, but any of them could be anything. They could have any job or anything like that. You take something like, Miss Marvel is not going to fall into a traditional Pakistani trope because that's not what people do. That's not how people are. And I just think that one of the big hurdles that, women, especially and people of color, is, in films that are traditionally male, you have like a small handful of tropes that you can be. You can be an archer, a healer, a femme fatale, or a plot device. Like there's very few tropes, and if someone is outside of that trope, now it makes them uncomfortable, and that's bad writing, is what they'll tell you.
Yeah. Oh gosh, the bad writing. As a writer, it drives me nuts because I'm like, can you explain? Can please tell me? Please elaborate. Please elaborate why this is bad writing. And also, again, the inverse is. Sorry, there's like a fruit fly around my face. Which is like,
you were like,
it helps with the gestures. It's like,
Getting really passionate.
Right? Super passionate.
I thought she was conducting an orchestra.
My Goonies poster is the orchestra I'm conducting in front of me. Yeah, the inverse of the like, oh, it was bad because of bad writing. Oh my gosh, it was really good because it was good direction. It's like, no. It can be a combination of both. We need to talk more about writing. That's just me as a writer going off on a writing tangent. But
well, I wonder if you can speak to this, because something I've started to see a lot of commentary on is people really grabbing onto the fact with Obi-Wan that it was supposed to be a movie initially in its very early genesis. And I've seen a lot of people talking about how, oh, I wish, it had been a movie, because then we would have, once they saw the final episode and saw how beautiful of a wrapped up story it was, they were like, oh, like if it had been a movie, like we would have gotten that sooner and gotten all of the like, quote, dumb stuff out of the way. The dumb stuff being, seeing young Leia, which is not dumb. It added so much value to that character that prior to that, I feel like I'd really only gotten from Claudia Gray books, quite frankly.
Yes.
Like, it's just the idea that didn't have value and that story wasn't worth telling because people just wanted to, they wanted to see Hayden, which don't get me wrong, I wanted to see Hayden. I love Hayden Christensen, but I don't have to put down one story just because I maybe want to see another one more.
Yeah. In lessons of media literacy, it was bad because it didn't meet my XYZ expectations is not a good enough critique and never will be not even enough. That's just a bad dumpster fire critique in general. Like, you're allowed to not like something because it didn't do what you wanted. Fine, sure, whatever. You're not allowed to call something bad because it didn't do what you wanted. Let's look at the story that they wanted to tell. What are the story they wanted to tell? They wanted to tell a story about Obi-Wan 10 years after, and by they, what's the story like Deborah Chow wanted to tell and has like talked about wanting to tell? She wanted to tell like a love letter between Anakin and Obi-Wan, that their relationship was like a love story between the two of them. Seeing Obi-Wan going from beaten down and faithless into becoming who he is at the end of the show. These are the things that they told us that this is the story they want to tell. Did they effectively do that? Now we can talk about that critically, and then we can get into like, oh, did they effectively tell this? Was it good or was it bad? Was it not? And I'm very curious to see. I kind of want to watch the cut. Whoever made, there was an editor, I think, who cut the show into a 2.5 hour movie, and I kind of want to watch it. Because I'll have to find the article, but he talked about pacing issues in his cut of his version, if he made it a 2.5 hour movie, is that it fixed pacing issues and cut out some of the fluff. And I'm like, first off,
what's the fluff?
What's the fluff? And why is the fluff Reva and Leia? already can say that. This is me.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. Yep.
Exactly.
I mean, someone recut the sequels to take out the women. That happened. So, unfortunately, it kind of becomes the equivalent of going into a buffet and they're like, here's spaghetti, and then they're like, oh, thank you, I wanted steak, and you're like, okay, that's not steak, this is spaghetti. I'm like, okay, I wish it had more steak. And you're like,
And the thing to remember is the buffet had a sign before they walked in saying a buffet of spaghetti.
yeah,
There was no notes about a steak.
You're like, no one told you you would be getting steak, all right? Like, shut up about the steak. I was interested in watching a 2-hour cut until I found out that, like, one of the big selling points or whatnot is you just rescored it with just classic Star Wars themes and then put, like, Duel of the Fates and stuff on the final battle, which in and of itself isn't bad, but this isn't that. You know what I mean? Like, I love that we wouldn't have Duel of the Fates if they just put, you know, Empire Strikes Back music in the Phantom Menace. Like, we need different music in different projects because it's a different project, different time period, all this stuff, and we can't rely on just injecting nostalgia into every project because that's bad.
And it doesn't fit well with me, the let's take out the music of the first female composer of Star Wars to put in, like, John Williams stuff. And it's like, anytime, it wasn't until that last episode when we started hearing some iconic themes. I know that, like, I saw folks talking about, like, why haven't we heard Leia's theme? Leia's been this entire show, we haven't heard Leia's theme. And it's like, if we had heard Leia's theme throughout, it would not have hit the way it hits in that final episode. And it also is like, when you talk about some of these character stories, like, music is a form of storytelling. And Natalie Holt is a different writer, different musician, contributing out to build out Leia's story at a different point in her life and what she sounds like in this different point in her life. It does not discount Princess Leia's theme that George Lucas created for the original trilogy, but it adds to it and it rounds it out. And now we have a different story and we have a different addition to her. We have more additions into, like, Obi-Wan's character in terms of, like, some of the music that we have added and adapted into the show. And so, yeah, no, cutting out the fluff, and then that it's probably the female characters, and then also taking out the Natalie Holt score does not sit well with me. I will not lie.
Yeah, that's as young says in the chat. Wait, they did that? Rolls up sleeves. Let me add them. I'm gonna go through really quickly and catch up with everyone in the chat, just so the chat's been blowing up. Cal4 says, literally just making content that's not the same flavor of vanilla every time. Diverse stories are great stories. Representation gives us better Star Wars. Absolutely. CJ says, and honestly, if you can't still find a connection to someone who doesn't look exactly like you when we've been making other people do that for years, you might be the problem. Oh man, that brings me back to, you might be a redneck. It's true, you know. For like how many years we've had straight white males as leads, and we've been forcing BIPOC and, you know, other people to have to relate to that for all these years, and finally you got some people of diversity in lead roles, and you're like, oh man, they're forcing it. It's just like, come on now. They're not forcing anything, right? They just added it to the menu. Let's see here. Cal says, can we stop bullying child actors? You know, just actors in general, when it doesn't matter. Yes, absolutely. It's tough because the people who are haters are dumb. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
they're just dumb. Let's see here. Marion says people were upset that familiar themes like the Imperial March were not heard until the end. Why would it be that prevalent until why it's just weird. Like, it's so the thinking is so reductive in that, like, there's no consideration for the narrative. You're just like, I want to hear Darth Vader's theme immediately. as the show opens. And you're just like, wait, no, he's on Tatooine. Like, Obi-Wan's on Tatooine, he's suffering. There's no reason for that theme to play.
As a musician, it reminds me of, like, I would play a song and then people would be like, oh, that was really good. Play it again. And I'm like, no. What?
And I like to point to this one instance where I did an edit where I inserted Anakin into Tross, and someone was like, "This fixed the entire movie," and I was like, "Wait, I didn't change the movie. I just put Anakin at the end," and they were like, "Yeah, it fixes everything." Like, okay, so some of these people just like head empty, my brain blank, that the whole movie rests on the shoulders of seeing someone, hearing a theme. It's like, maybe perhaps if the theme of the opening of Obi-Wan were in fact Duel of the Fates, someone might love the show and not really care about the substance. I don't know. It's weird. Let's see here. Harith says, as a person who used to do fan edits and posted it in the community, a lot of the members in that community are extremely problematic, like the fact that they're advertising it as Reva, where Reva is less whiny.
Just like she's not whiny at all.
No. I mean, but
Reva plays exactly like Anakin, and that's the purpose of her character journey, and so that's also very telling when people are like, listen, you're showing your whole ass here, and you seem.
Why is Leia acting like a child? Marianne says, Deborah Chow and Natalie Holt had very good reasons for why you didn't hear these themes until the end. I thought it was brilliant. I need to look over a lot of these things. Let's see. I think we are caught up. Let's. Women's rights was a mistake. What? Bring back patriarchy, make women feminine again? Okay. I didn't mean to highlight that. I was just I just clicked on it. Let's see what we can do about that.
Yeah. You know what? I do have a hot take though. I think that anyone who the fandom has a barrier for entry makes them a better fan. So by that token, I do think that a lot of women, especially in Star Wars, are better fans because they love it enough to go to, you know, for them it's like, you know, uphill in the rain.
Yeah.
And so I do appreciate that, and I also more often than not find them to be better storytellers because we do have a problem with toxic masculinity where a lot of men are unable to emote. They're unable to access emotion properly, healthily, and on a regular basis. And so having someone who can is going to tell more journeys that are emotionally fulfilling. So yeah, that's my hot take specifically for that commenter.
I saw somebody say once, Deborah Chow could do Book of Boba Fett, but obviously she's the Mandalorian. She could have done Book of Boba Fett. Jon Favreau could not have done Obi-Wan Kenobi. As I saw a tweet once, and I'm like, you know what? I think I agree with that because there's like, Obi-Wan is such an emotional show and it's so emotionally driven, and that's something that I think we have yet to see from any of the Jon Favreau projects. And like, I know that there are a lot of people that would hear me saying that and be like, oh, she hates Jon Favreau, who's the worst, blah, blah, blah. She wants to take down Star Wars because she said this comment. No. I love Jon Favreau. I love his storytelling. I think he's great and super talented and iconic. I just think that, yeah, Deborah Chow handled an emotional story better. And this is why we have different writers, different directors, different producers, different editors who have strong suits in different places. There's like strong suits that John and Dave have that may not be like Deborah Chow or Bryce Dallas Howard or Steph Green or Leslie Headland in their strong suits. And the same is the reverse. And that's not a problem. This is why it's like, and it's beautiful to see more. And I think that like one of the most amazing things to see that John and Dave Filoni did with The Mandalorian is using it kind of like as an incubation for bringing in new directors and new voices in, who then are getting these new projects, like getting Obi-Wan Kenobi, because the genesis of seeing her crush Mandalorian is epic. Bryce Dallas Howard starting with Mando and then going on to crush it, and I know she's going to crush it in season 3 with Bo-Katan. You know, Bo-Katan's character in that storyline, and whatever she goes to go on to do there is exciting. In Book of Boba Fett, Steph Green did Watchmen, and I know is like a newer director. I believe is a new director in terms of into the Star Wars universe. But who knows? I loved that episode. Her episode of Book of Boba Fett is one of my favorite of that season, and it was so powerful and was so emotional. I think it's one of the most emotional episodes of the series.
She did episode 2?
She did episode 2. Yeah, that entire ending sequence in terms of Boba with the Tuscans when he's coming back and getting all the robes, and you get so much beautiful Tuscan lore. Like, that was absolutely stunning. And so yeah, seeing the way that like a lot of these TV shows are becoming places for new voices to be able to step in and get their feet wet to hopefully, who knows? I know everybody and their mother's like, where's Bryce Dallas Howard's movie or TV show?
Bryce is booked in movies. She is on screen. She is off screen. Give her time.
That's true. That's true. She does deserve her own show. But yes, I'm pretty sure she's quite the busy person.
Just some of those long shots of, you know, Mando getting on the elevator, going up, and the camera panning around the table, and like and some of those
the
like,
film nerd in me just like thinking of all the steps it took, like the choreography.
When did you realize that was one take, and what was your reaction?
Oh, first time I was like, this is a long take. It's still going.
I think when he finally got when you watch it pan around the table, like, oh gosh.
yeah and the way that it moves, and like it tells, like the blocking of that scene tells the story and builds the tension based on who we're looking at, who we're moving to, who we're framing on, who's moving, who's saying what, and all of that. And then to watch him leave with poor Mando and his little injury on his leg.
Yeah, he's like, oh god.
Ripping the other like alien in the elevator with him. That's just like, oh gosh, I need to get out of this place.
I'm gonna have to call an Uber still.
I used to be an adventurer like you. I'm trying to take the dark saber to the moon. So what I want to do next is really quickly do a kind of like a lightning round with everybody, and just to give a shout out and a brief explanation as to what that person does for Star Wars. And I'll give you an example, and I'll start with me. And just, you know, because I do this, I'm cheating, and I'm doing 2 people. I'm gonna give a shout out to Kiri Hart for being the leader of the Lucasfilm Story Group. It is not known. A lot of people think that Filoni, Pablo Hidalgo, or Horton, or Martin are the story group leads. They're not. It's headed by Kiri Hart, and she's amazing. And it cannot be an easy task to rein in all of Star Wars canon and kind of have to wrangle up all of these projects and keep everything as concise and as tight as possible when it comes to dealing with continuity. And yes, mistakes are made. Everyone is human. They're not robots. But I can guarantee you, it is more consistent than it used to be. Actually, it wasn't really consistent.
No.
There were names used in multiple books that were, hey, look, Han's here. Han's also in that book. But there was really no consideration, at least to this level, to keeping continuity where you could say, hey, this is an actual continuity. But I hesitate to say Legends continuity holistically, because I know if you go from the Old Republic to Legacy to Fate, there's way too many inconsistencies where it just doesn't line up. So I often have to say Old Republic or New Jedi Order and those timelines because there really wasn't any consideration for continuity. The second quick shout out I'm going to do is Carrie Beck, because Rebels is my favorite show. And yeah, you guys got to know these are women giving you your favorite shows. And that's me. I'll pass it off to Camilla.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna go the writer route. I'm going to shout out, because I love the show and I cannot wait for season 2. Jennifer Corbett, head writer of The Bad Batch, head writer EP of The Bad Batch. And again, when The Bad Batch was coming out, Dave Filoni is obviously involved, and to see the fact that the reception of the show, whenever things were great and people were praising the show, it was always Dave Filoni, our king, Dave Filoni saved Star Wars, Dave Filoni. And again, this is not me saying Dave Filoni's the worst, because he's not, and he's brilliant, and I know we have a lot to say thank you for incredible stories that he's given us, you know. However, he doesn't have the hands-on duties that someone like Jennifer Corbett does, and tying back to the fact that, like, I love the stories in The Bad Batch. I personally think it's the best first season of any of the Star Wars shows, live action included. Well, Obi-Wan now. Obi-Wan's a limited series. I'm gonna put Obi-Wan in some. Obi-Wan's over there.
Category.
Yeah, we're gonna put it in its own category. But if anything, it'd be Obi-Wan and then The Bad Batch in terms of first seasons, because I think the writing was excellent and very emotionally driven, but also still very action driven, and did a lot of work to build out this world, to give us new characters, to build it like a part of the storyline that we don't necessarily have like a ton of stories of right after Order 66 and what that looks like, and let alone in terms of these clones and this new group of clones. And I think that the batch themselves were so emotionally driven, and I know that there are a lot of like the Bad Batch and just like clones in general are so popular a lot of female audiences and non-binary audiences. And I think especially with the Bad Batch, like the fact that you have a woman running the room and bringing that perspective and bringing out that emotional perspective to help like round out those characters and give them that kind of depth that I don't know if a man might as much. And then to see them the way that they're interacting with Omega, like it's all very emotional and sensitive. And a lot of that is to Jennifer Corbett leading the room, but then also like her team. And if you look, and this is again another media literacy lesson, a great way to support women and people of color behind the camera and behind the scenes. If you're watching a TV show and you're watching an episode of TV and you're like, whoa, I really love this, look at the credits and see who's making these episodes of TV show. And you'll see, if you're looking at the credits of The Bad Batch, there are a chunk of women in that writer's room who are writing that show, and it shows, and you can feel it and you can see it. So I'm gonna give a shout out to Jennifer Corbett, and when Bad Batch season 2 comes out, and it's fantastic, I can't wait to see that of the guy like this in Jennifer Corbett's face.
Young in the chat says, and that's why we love our Bad Batch boys, because they were written by women. Steph's off soapbox. Absolutely. Also, the chat, shout out to Kristen Baver for This Week in Star Wars and the Art of the High Republic. Also for the Skywalker Family at War book, which is an amazing book as well. Additional honorable mentions, of course, to our queen, Claudia Gray, for always giving us or running a clinic on character development. Justina Ireland. I don't want to miss others. So we'll just move on. There it is. Shout out to Christy Golden for Dark Disciple, the best book I've ever read and taken into consideration from a non-book reader. Yes.
Okay, speaking of Christy Golden, everybody should also needs to read Inferno Squad.
Yeah.
I prefer it over personally over Dark Disciple. I love Iden as a character, and it's so good. And again, Iden is a character that could have easily fallen into the strong female trope versus strong female trope, but Christy Golden gave us an amazing female character that I think could have fallen into a bad place had that book been written by a man. So also Inferno Squad.
Absolutely. Ven shouts out E.K. Johnson for Queen's Trilogy. I've never flown through a series so quick before. I mean, come on now, though. There's neo pronouns. That book. Did you guys see that video?
Oh, yeah. I think I
they did
responded
not
to
touch at all
I
the
don't think I
story
saw
or
it.
the substance. They were just like, this book is bad because there's neo pronouns. I'm just like, okay, well, what about the story?
Yeah.
Nothing? You got nothing? Okay.
Well, this is a good segue for my shouting out, because I was going to shout out Claudia Gray and E.K. Johnston.
There you go.
because I really want to talk specifically about Bloodline here, because Bloodline just I could talk about this book for hours, but I'll keep it to a sentence or two. The way that fleshes out a woman who has been through so much trauma and like is a mother at this point, separated from her child is not with her throughout the entirety of the story, so, and neither is Han. Like, it's very central about her experiencing in real time, very just, it's political, it's dramatic, it's such a beautiful, oh god, it's beautiful. That's my big book recommendation for everyone. If you haven't read Bloodline, you need to read Bloodline. It just fleshes out a time period that I would love way more details on in between The Force Awakens, or prior to The Force Awakens, and how we got to that point. And also E.K. Johnson, speaking of her other work, the Ahsoka book, I think what's really powerful with what she did there is Dave Filoni was obviously the spearheading of Ahsoka throughout the entirety of the Clone Wars and did a beautiful job and introduced an incredible character. But what she was able to do with this book, with a character that she hadn't spent several seasons, fleshing out and working on, and made it entirely her own while also honoring the very real development that Dave Filoni did with Ahsoka. It's a great read. I think it's geared a little bit more of a YA style, but there's nothing wrong with YA. It's just a great read and a great character.
Absolutely. Claudia Gray gives us some of our best books from the High Republic to the New Republic to the original trilogy. Shout out to Lost Stars. Still number one book to recommend to just any new book reader out there. It's incredible. Shout out to Delilah S. Dawson for the Phasma novel. Shout out to Jude Watson.
Shockingly good. Shockingly good.
It should not be shocking though. It should not be.
When you read it, it goes in a way different direction than you anticipate it going, and it's all the better for it. That's what's shocking.
Shout out to Jude Watson for propelling my love of Star Wars as a child. Yes, Jedi Apprentice. Hashtag carry on forever. It's a good wrap up on that one. Choco, who you shout out?
Well, as soon as you said it, I was like, I have to see who goes first, because I have a feeling that my first pick is going to be taken.
Was it?
My first thought went to Jennifer Corbett, actually, but that's okay. I was just looking back because there's someone that I saw on many panels at Celebration, and I was said some awesome stuff. I was just trying to rack my brain trying to remember her name, but Jennifer Teach. Was it Jennifer? Is it Jessica Teach? I think it's Jessica Teach. works for ILM and is responsible for some of the most beautiful and iconic scenes that we get out of Rogue One, which is just a visually stunning movie, in my opinion, second only to The Last Jedi, because that's my thing. But I'm really excited for this ILM documentary because there's a lot of people on those teams where they were just bringing in. They brought in quite a few women on those, like Carrie Agnew. There's a lot of really talented, and when that drops, we actually have a friend who she works for ILM, and we'll hopefully be able to bring her on as well. So yeah, we'll hopefully we can make that work. And then the other one is my heart goes out to Claudia Gray, because she's the architect of my modern love for Star Wars in everything. I have changed a lot as a person in these past few years. Part of it's being married for 3.5 years, but also in understanding a lot more, but going into Bloodlines specifically, I didn't think I would be super into a book about a middle-aged Leia. I'm gonna be honest. I did not anticipate an action-packed thriller that was the book Bloodline. And I couldn't put that book down.
Yeah.
Lost Stars, I couldn't put down. I think I've never seen these characters depicted so beautifully and with so much, rich nuance. And yeah, so I'm grateful that we're getting people that can access that, because I'm a big time Legends reader. Read a lot of the Legends books. It's not the same. The Courtship of Princess Leia is a weird book, for instance. I don't think drugging and kidnapping a woman is the best way to convince her to be with you, personally. And I thought that was a weird choice. But some of these books are entertaining, but the main characters are clearly self-insert alpha chads that lack that substance. They're cool for those things that they do, but I always talk about Corran Horn for this, of being the ace pilot who becomes a Jedi who every woman wants to be with, and he's constantly turning them away left and right. And like, he's a cool character, but it's like it's weird reading it now versus like, oh, I can see why I loved this when I was like 17. We get so much depth now, and that's what I love.
And with that, I think we can end this episode. So, shout out to all of the women behind Star Wars, the women of Star Wars, that have given us all of the stories that we love and continue to do so in the future, tomorrow, next week, or next year, and for future generations. Shout out to everyone in the chat for tuning in and engaging and being involved in the conversation. Before we get to the wrap up and for everyone's plugs and all of that, I do want to insert this weekly DYAD trivia question. And the chat, as well as our guests, have 30 seconds to answer. It's not hard, I guarantee you.
I'm stressed.
So you say that now.
Yeah, I'm stressed. My mind gets blank when I get competitive.
All right, so our weekly DYAD trivia question. What was the name of the Jedi survivor who asks Obi-Wan for help on Tatooine? And you guys can answer whenever you have it.
Camilla just leaves.
No!
That was great timing.
It was gonna happen. Am I back? I don't know.
Oh God.
I just know he's played by Benny Staff.
Yeah.
I don't know his actual name.
So we do have someone in the chat who got it. The name, I believe the first one to say it was Ven Skywalker. The name was Nari. And I think a lot of our weekly DYAD trivias will revolve around the most relevant show, the most recent show. But I've been trying to insert that in for the past 2 weeks, and I forgot each time to put it in. But yes, Nari is the correct answer, and you win virtual hugs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bring it in.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you guys so much for being with us. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap things up at all?
I think I have one, and it's more of like I don't know if call to action is the right word, but I think that something that's really critical in having these conversations is that women and people of color are screaming these things, obviously, and it's so important that cis white men join this conversation, and not just join it, but actively start it and advocate for it, because I think that is when we're going to see a real shift. Because like I said, I mean, we get off the soapbox and now what? The now what is these people also taking charge of these conversations. So I don't know if that's a call to action or just a statement that hopefully isn't going into a void, but I think maybe that's the next step in figuring out what that looks like and how that goes. But yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Thanks for having this conversation. This was really great.
Absolutely.
If you've watched Miss Marvel, we need more Brunos.
Brian?
Bruno put in the work. That's all I'm saying.
Brian, right?
Brian.
I swear he knows my name is Bruno.
Yeah, I just want to echo that because just like a solid retweet from my end. Because it's just, like Cass is right. Like, women and people of color and queer people have been screaming about these things for so long, and it's exhausting when it happens. And we have to continue screaming about like why we're valid in the spaces that we love and why we belong there. And we are just heard differently, flat out. Based on the way that we look, we will just be heard differently than if we were a cis white man. And this fruit fly needs to get away because I'm trying to talk.
I thought you were trying to Jedi mind trick me.
I was trying to Jedi mind trick the internet to be like, listen. So it's like, it's not enough to just retweet a tweet. It's like Cass said, you need to be the ones starting the conversations. You need to be the ones making space. When there's a book about a female character coming out, talk about that book as much, if not more, than Brotherhood, than Padawan, than Shadows of the Sith, than these books that star men. Like, when a show is coming out, when the Acolyte is coming out, when the Bad Batch is coming out, talk about Amandla Stenberg's character. Talk about Omega as much as you're talking about whatever men get cast in the Acolyte, whatever the Hunter and Tech and Captain Rex and all of the men in these shows.
Whatever the cameo of the week is.
Oh my gosh, for the love of God, the cameo conversation of the Bad Batch is a whole nother story that we don't have time to get into. But yes, it's like, let these stories about women, about people of color, about queer people take up space. And if you feel like they're taking up space, they need to take up even more space. Go above and beyond. And because you will be heard differently, period, than the people who are the ones who are currently screaming about this. And it's uncomfortable. And also get uncomfortable. Because there are people who live lives where they're uncomfortable every single day that they walk into the spaces and the fandom spaces that they love. And that sucks, you know? But we still love these spaces. We love these stories. There's a reason why we're still here and celebrating these stories and why we want to be a part of them. It doesn't mean that it's not exhausting sometimes, a lot of times, all the time. So just let these stories take up space and let these people and the women take up space.
Absolutely. And you might as well go into your sign out. You know, where can people find you? and your awesome content. And yeah.
Yeah, so again, you can find me on TikTok at Boricua I spend the majority of my time talking about women of Star Wars, Padme and women of Star Wars. That's like what I love talking about most on there. So check that out. And then also, if you want to support a woman behind the scenes of her own like corner of Star Wars, check out Beings of the Galaxy. There it is. Star Wars narrative podcast, telling the stories of the everyday people in our galaxy far, far away. Season 1 is currently streaming in its entirety. Season 2 is in production right now. You can find us on Twitter at beings_pod, and then also on Instagram, Beings of the Galaxy Pod, and listen to us wherever pods are cast. And enjoy.
Awesome. And Cass.
Yeah. You can find me again. I post maybe like once every 3 months. Maybe I'll make that like once a month. Who knows? We'll see what we're feeling every day. But you can find me at Kaz_online. And yeah, go read a book written by a woman.
Absolutely.
Yes,
That's
please.
how I'll sign up.
Absolutely.
Or, audiobook it. Audiobooks are great.
Absolutely.
I work in voiceover. I gotta plug my audiobooks. So.
And with that, we're gonna run the gag again for Cass. Fulcrum Transmissions, a Star Wars podcast. Episodes every Monday, anywhere you stream podcasts. Twitter, TikTok, Fulcrum Pod, Instagram, Fulcrum Podcast. I'm just kidding. We have all of these graphics now. We also have to shout out female entrepreneur Brooke Dazzler, farfarawayfactory.com, who is currently working on a Satil Sean t-shirt that will be the only Satil Sean merch out there, which will be precious in my heart, because I can't find anything out there, and so Brooke will be providing me with the one thing that I lack in my life, a Satil shirt. Also, House of Holocrons every Friday at 5 p.m. Central. House of Holocrons on Spotify and Anchor. Kessel Run Relay available on Spotify and Apple Music. Instagram and TikTok, Kessel Run Relay Pod, and Twitter, Kessel Run Relay, at the beginning of every week. Check out those podcasts where they are pod and where they are cast. Shout out to everyone in the chat: Young, Dixon Download, Ven Skywalker, Satil Supremacy. I agree wholeheartedly with you.
Jaina's better. I'm just kidding. We don't have to put them against each other. I love them both. Jaina's my favorite character.
Cal 4 in the chat, as well as St. Pat's. Thank you very much for that. Always have great topics and guests. This one brought to you by Camilla, of course. And Star Wars Lawyer in the chat, who just says, I want my Janna book, damn it, as well as Wakanda Forever trailer drop. Okay, we have something to do right after we get off of this call.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for being on, and thank you to Camilla and Cassidy for taking the time out of their days to being our guests. Choco, do you have anything final to say? Any plugs, any announcements for next week's High Ground or anything like that?
Yeah, High Ground podcast, Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. This week we will be talking The Empire Strikes Back. So that will be a very fun conversation, because I love that movie so much. Also, like I said, go read a book written by a woman, and you can do that by pre-ordering either Padawan by Kristen White or Beth Revis's Princess and the Scoundrel. So
it's out of my reach.
Our next two written by women. Pre-order them, look them up, talk about them online, shout out them at the authors. Let's make some noise.
Absolutely. Also, shout out to Nedrex in the chat, as well as Heather Harith Productions and Chris, Star Wars Lawyer, who has apparently seen the trailer for 6 times now. It's healthy. It's completely healthy.
I can't wait.
But with that said, I'd like to also thank our DYAD Squadron members, without which we could not continue to make content each week. We've also decided that we are, Choco and I are just going to have some more conversations in general for everything dealing with Jedi non-attachment to balance to things YouTubers get wrong all the time. And we're just going to have those videos out there, and we're going to make some clickbaity titles as well. We're going to fight fire with fire, but our fire is gonna be tempered with good intentions. Don't worry.
Yeah. We might reach out to you, Cass, if you would be willing to come on for one or two of them. Just
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so with that said, I believe that's the end. On to the next one.
For light and for life.
We're all the Republic.
And may the force be with you.
Always. Ride the storms. Also this.
Do or do not. There is no try. Do or do not. There is no try. Do or do not. There is no try.